An Immortal Worker by Xiaochen. Wolfgang wiped dripping sweat from his forehead as the bell rang across the factory to signal the end of another working day. Thus marks the end of day 1053 168 at work. Just another busy day repairing industrial equipment, like many days before, and many more to come. Wolfgang doesn't feel particularly tired, despite being over 500 years old. He feels like he still has the energy of a 20-year-old, or so he thinks. If he can still recall what it was really like to be when he was 20. It had been too long. Maybe he's glamorizing a youth he hasn't experienced for centuries. But Wolfgang does feel bored. He knows that the state's decision to invest in continuing his life by centuries shows his skills remain valuable. But no matter how many of the machines he repairs in the name of helping his country, he cannot help but feel he's becoming just like the machines he is fixing, a tool to get things done, not a unique individual to be cherished. His endlessly continuing life has made him numb to human emotions. Too many family members and friends of less value to the state are allowed to die of natural causes, as humans normally did before the advent of man-made immortality. Watching them age and perish has made Wolfgang unwilling to open up to a new crop of humans in his midst. What is the point, he wondered, if he'll just outlive them all? He isn't even that interested in making friends with the new crop of humans anyways. It isn't that just conversations are difficult with those with much less life experience than him. Most of the youngsters these days are just so lacking in ambition. They know that the skilled jobs will go to the immortals who've been doing the same thing for centuries, so why try hard? They'd rather enjoy the fruits of the immortals' labor and skills, going through a regular life of growing up and getting old. Wolfgang doesn't blame the passive attitude of today's youngsters. If he was born after the age of immortality, he too would have given up on his studies and enjoyed life to its maximum. It sure beats having the government dictate the sole purpose of your still being alive is to provide the skills for an eternity while new generations don't even see the need to take over from you. As his life grew longer and longer, he became less and less in control of it. Fellow immortals have tried to kill themselves, only to be brought back to life. The state stipulated they're just too valuable to die, and medical technology is far too advanced for any grisly means of death to be fatal anyway. Wolfgang is already resigned to his fate, knowing that he cannot die even if he tried. "See you tomorrow, Wolfgang," a co-worker blurted out as they both walked out of the factory's front door. See you tomorrow indeed, Wolfgang thought, and the days after that, until the end of human civilization. Goodbye by Thomas Parshall. If I hadn't made the transatomic strike, we couldn't have afforded the cottage in Coventry. If we couldn't afford the cottage, we wouldn't have been doctoring the strike. If we wouldn't have been doctoring the strike, we would have waited to start our family. If we had waited, we would have been destroyed with the rest of the Earth force. So the birth of my daughter saved the rest of my family. We watched the feats as the invaders swept aside the efforts of the Belters. Our friends and neighbors died too for every one they destroyed, and there was nothing we could do. Time and again, I caught myself about to leave for my single ship to help. Then I remember that if I had rented it to a friend and I had no way to defend us. We watched as the invaders came within range of Earth's primary defenses, and for once we were glad that they had been so paranoid of us Belters, and we cried when we saw it wasn't enough. The invaders died by the thousands yet again, but they had enough left over to bombard the home planet. Even our simple scopes here in the belt could see the flashes of death on her surface, and still they fought. Missiles left from an unsought war hundreds of years ago lifted slowly and locked onto anything into near-Earth orbit. By then, the only things left in orbit were the invaders, and as slow as the missiles were, more invaders died. I suppose they knew they couldn't win. The few hundred invaders that were left turned to flee the system. As they flowed outward along the path of destruction they had wrought, they seemed to have forgotten about the rest of the Belters on the far side of the system. Weeks had passed, and every ship capable waited for them. No invader left the solar system. That was a decade ago. 10 years at near light speeds. I know what we'd learned to reach those speeds by studying the wreckage of the invaders, but it doesn't matter. They came for us out in the black, and that is how we will come for them. 10 years for me, 19 for you, daughter. This is why your father had to leave. You saved us once, and now it's my turn. The God of No One by Michael Jagunic. There was an asteroid belt made of bones on the other side of the quasar. I saw it long ago. It is all I remember of that last place. Of the place I came before that, I remember nothing except I was there. long, long ago. Sometimes I stop among the stars briefly, but long enough for the light to touch me, to catch me. This new place is white with stars. There are so many worlds here, civilizations mighty and sprawling, a place of near limitless possibility. But possibility leads to actuality. Actuality leads to decay, and decay leads back to the old places. This white place will soon rot black. These civilizations will become bone and dust like the last. I resume. The light falls away from me, too slow. For a time, I will linger here. I think this is what I always do, but I cannot be certain. The eons erode my memories. Soon, the recollection of the asteroid belt of bones will slip from me forever. But I enjoy the lingering, so I think that I am likely to have done it before in the last place, and the places before that. There are places here, worlds that are glow and warm and invite. The creatures here of these worlds cannot perceive me as I move between the slow plodding of light of this place, but they call out to me nonetheless. In one green place, I touch the creatures with my hand. I caress them with winds and rains. They are born and die within a moment. It is a marvel to behold. They do not know the way I know, or see or sense the way I do, but watching them gives me the illusions of these things. They swarm together, they blossom together, and they die together. I see them in possibilities, but possibility leads to actuality, and actuality leads to decay. They will grow, they will ungrow. This white place will soon rot black. I resume. I take some of them with me. Perhaps this too is what I always do. I do not remember, but this time feels different. I spread these creatures across this place, leaving them to grow and ungrow in beautiful flurries of illusory meaning. As I leave them in my wake, I know they will call out to me, but I will not hear them. This light cannot touch me here, and neither can the sound of their voices. This place is aging. Soon it will be like the last places, the ones I have long forgotten. There was once a planet full of two-legged creatures on the other side of the quasar. I created it. It is all I remember of the last place. Of the place that came before that, I remember nothing, except I was there, long, long ago. Alternate 7816JS by Joshua Reynolds. Dinosaurs thundered through a post-industrial city on their way to work, suits and ties, briefcases built to bit thick, knobby talons. The stink of mammal bacon on the breath of some, boiled plant on others. Pollution choking the air and grease and oil and garbage in the streets. A thriving, productive society. This wouldn't do. Oh no, not at all. Not because the dinosaurs had evolved, or even because they had simultaneously supplanted the mammal and driven it nearly to extinction, except for those in processing farms, getting fat from no movement and squirting out infants every 9 months, but because they intended to do it elsewhere. The censor stood on top of the tallest building in the city, invisible to the saurian eye, his coat heavy with light-bending circuitry and Ellison cells. He tapped the side of his head, bringing up a HUD screen on the insides of his eyelids. A series of tiny screens within screens appeared on the display. An infinity of bureaucracy. The Timeline Validation Bureau. Bland faces appeared on each screen. Gray little men leading gray little lives in their chronal separation cubicles hard at work, never know the joys of the infinities of the continuum, and to prevent others from doing so as well. That was the job of the censor. Of all the censors. Although they were all the same man, they were all him, all white, and they all loved their job. Report, a multitude of somber voices echoed in his ear. Alternate 7816JS is experiencing a major chronal incident. Nature? Scientists have discovered the backroads. They have opened doors to alternates 7826JS, 7846JS, and 7886JS, respectively, and a fourth is tacking directly into the continuum itself. Eliminate. My thoughts exactly, the censor smiled. Initiating reality disruption. He stuck his hand in his coat and pulled out a smooth sphere, an entropy grenade, and twisted its top half lightly. The sphere began to glow as he tossed it up into the air, where it rose higher and higher, finally fading out of sight altogether. It would phase itself into the heart of the sun, and when it exploded, it would send out an entropic pulse and erase the rogue timeline from existence as well as the three that it infected with its disease in a controlled Big Bang. The censor leaned over the edge of the building, his arms resting on his knee, and breathed in the humid, swampy air. How many sentients would perish? The machines in his head began to calculate and he hummed to himself as he prepared to leave. Overhead, the sun seemed to flash for a moment, growing brighter with every second as entropy waves devoured it from the inside out. The sensor smiled as his eye lenses polarized against the glare. He so did love his job.